Good morning, Rechavia Nachlaot in Yerushalayim, and everyone else that's watching us. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to start sort of a new concept. The question that we left off with was that how is it possible that Havaya and Elokim are both one? They seem to be two exact opposites. Havaya, the name of Hashem, Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, is G-dly, revelation, and Elokim is restraint. So how could you say in the Zohar, Havaya Elokim kulachad? Havaya and Elokim is all one. So based on this verse that we're going to talk about, Mibsari echze Eloka, the prophet tells us, from my own flesh, when we look into our own selves, how Hashem created us, echze Eloka, we can see God. We can have a little bit of an idea of how it works by Hashem, because otherwise there's no way that we can have any intuition into the Sfirot and the higher realms. Even when we look into ourselves, we don't really have an intuition, because after all, it says Mibsari echezeh. It doesn't say Mibsari eloka. From my flesh I will see. Echezeh is more of a blurred vision. It's not a real clear vision. But if we're able to have even a little more understanding in depth into Hashem and the Sfirot, VeYadaata, as we spoke about it in the introduction to this Maamar, VeYadaata, to try to bring it into our minds a little more, the amazing knowledge and information about godliness and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then it's worth it. So let's try. So this is going to be the introduction for the next couple of lessons. The key word, are you ready, is hiyuli, a Hebrew word. You can write this down. Hey Yud Vav Lamed Yud. I don't think you're going to learn this word in your ulpan, but it is a word which is discussed in Torah and namely in Chasidut. What is this hiyuli? Hey Yud Vav Lamed Yud. Koach hiyuli. This general koach, this general energy. Let's try to explain it as follows. There are many examples that we could probably bring, but let's take, for example, a seed. A seed, when you plant it into the ground, the seed itself does not give forth a tree or plants or wheat. The proof is that before the tree grows, the seed dissolves and then the tree grows. If it was coming from the seed, then it would then the fruit would not, or the plants or whatever it is, then the seed would remain there, and out of the seed would come the plants, the tree. Also, the seed does not taste like an apple, doesn't look like an apple, but Hashem made in His infinite knowledge that there should be all of the wonderful colors and tastes and blessings that Hashem puts in every tree, oxygen, everything should be in that seed. Now, if you cut that seed open, are you going to see apple? Are you going to see? No. What it is a special koach. I'm going to call it, for lack of another word, hiyuli, this general energy. And this energy is related to, in this case, something which grows, fruit, trees, leaves, branches. Now, it's not enough to have the koach hiyuli. It's not enough to have this general koach. What we need to have is to bring this general energy into some kind of framework. Now, let's say that Hashem has, it's like a pyramid. Let's start with let's start with just a general koach. Hashem gives a koach to the world that the world should exist. Then it becomes a little more focused. That's in the beginning, but now we're climbing to the top. Then we have a koach hiyuli. It still is hiyuli, but it's hiyuli of growing. Then we need another koach, which is a little more focused, growing trees. And then we need another koach, another energy, which is a little more focused, a certain type of tree. Let's say an etrog tree or a palm tree, whatever it is. And then you need another koach, which brings the fruit, and which brings the peel for the fruit and the inside of the fruit, and so on and so forth. Now, the more we are outside in the pyramid, it's more hiyuli. It's more general. It's more not identified, neutral, colorless. It's undefiable because it's more general. It's a koach in the world that Hashem gives. It might even be hard for us to identify it. But the closer we get to trying to develop something specific, then the koach needs to be more identified, or else there's no way that the concept is gonna come to fruition. So the farther we get from the original koach hiyuli, the less it becomes hiyuli, and the more it becomes focused on the specific issue that we're talking about. I really hope this example was a good example, because soon we're going to use a few other examples, Bezrat Hashem, especially about the nefesh. Hashem wants us to understand our nefesh, our own soul better, so we'll be able to understand how this koach hiyuli fits into our soul. But I just tried to give you a general concept, a general idea of what this koach hiyuli means. And now, hopefully, we'll be able to translate it into our own psyche, into our own soul, that we can hopefully relate to it better. So let's take, for an example, the ability to think. So let's get back to that pyramid example, right? So all the way at the bottom, we have a general koach of the individual. Hashem wants to create a human being. And so he gives a koach forth in this world that there should be able to be human beings. That's all the way at the bottom. Widely general. Almost unidentifiable at all. Then Hashem wants to create a certain human being. But we still don't know exactly what this human being is all about. It's a koach. It's just a general energy force in the world. Then Hashem wants there to be a nefesh, a soul, which is going to be the essence. Oh wow, a soul. So a soul is already much more identifiable. It's a soul for a specific person. Soon the neshama is going to come into a body, and we're going to be able to point, hey, this guy has a neshama. So this soul already is coming closer. A soul is made up of 10 kochot, just like the 10 sfirot of Hashem. The soul has chokhmah, wisdom, bina, understanding, da'at, knowledge, chesed, kindness, so on and so forth, until malchut. Okay, so what are we saying now? We have the ability to have sechel, to have intellect, and the ability to have emotion. Then we divide each one into three. And not each one, we divide the intellect into three, chachma, bina, da'at. Then we take the emotions and we divide into 7. Wow. So now all of a sudden, this original koach, hiyuli, this general quote-unquote koach, the general energy force, becomes more focused, becomes more identifiable. It's not just a koach that's floating around in the world, some holy entity which was undefiable. But it's merukaz, it's centralized, and it's identifiable. You can give it a name. When the koach hiyuli is in its original state, you almost can't even call it a name, because it's so it's so up and away in La La Land that there's no way to keep it focused and to identify it. So the more we bring it home, the more we bring it into some kind of framework, even if it's a general framework at the beginning, hopefully we'll be able to bring it closer and to be able to deal with it. So now let's focus for a second on the koach hamaskil, the ability to think. So before the brain is there, we have the koach hiyuli, the general koach of seichel, of intellect. It's not yet in the brain. It's not yet identifiable as chachma, bina, or dat. But it's still somewhere out there. It's the ability to think. What does it help us if you can't think? If there's no brain, what does it help? What does it help us? It helps us that after there'll be a brain, we'll be able to appreciate it more. So from the fact that we have the seichel in the brain, after there's a brain, that proves that before there was a brain, there must have been this koach hiyuli, this general energy force of thinking, even before there was a brain. The proof is that now there's this energy force in the brain. So it's almost like we're going backwards because we're human beings and we can only identify something which is clear, black on white, or something which is tangible. So then we can go back and say, you know what? There's got to be some kind of strong energy, which is a koach hiyuli, this general, neutral, unidentifiable koach, that now has been condensed into something specific. In our case, seichel, brains, the mind, the ability to think. Just having a general thinking power doesn't really help us if we don't have the brains to think, to actualize the ability that Hashem gave us to be able to think. And so that's another example of koach hiyuli. And the question is, are we able to bring it home? Are we able to identify it? Are we able to use it? Because when it's in the koach hiyuli, it might seem awesome, it might seem all great, but we can't use it. So what does it help us? What have we gained? The goal is to be able to take the wonderful gifts that Hashem has given to the world and to be able to create kelim, to be able to create vessels, and to be able to materialize the blessings that Hashem gives us. So let's at least start the first couple of lines, and then tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, will continue. It's pretty much the middle of the page, Mem Zayin, if you have the book of Tafresh Nun Zayin. The idea is that it says in the verse, the Mibsari Echze Eloka. It says in the verse, I look at my soul and I see Hashem. I look at my flesh, we look into ourselves, and then we could try at least to understand Hashem from within ourselves. Why? Because the Chesiv, it says in the verse, which we read 2 weeks ago in Parashat Bereshit, Na'aseh Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmutenu. Let us make man with our form and our image. Sheha'adam na'aseh b'tzelem udmut shalamala. That man was made in the image and form of above. V'lachen mikochot hanefesh, when we look into the energy of our own nefesh, of our own souls, navin, we can understand ech shu lamala, how it works above. Dehine bikochot hanefesh yesh gamkin koach hagilu. In koach hanefesh, in our nefesh, we also have the ability to be revealed, and also the koach hagbala, and the ability to have restraint, the hester and concealment. Ukemo koach hasechel. For example, the energy of sechel lahaskil askalot, to think different intellectual thinkings. Harehu nimshach mikoach hamaskil shebenefesh. It's drawn from the koach hamaskil. That's what we said earlier. Koach hamaskil is the ability to think. Hiyuli, it's still general. It hasn't yet come down into the brains, but it's a koach hamaskil. It innovates. It gives us the ability to innovate and to think more and to think out of the box, as they say. It's not as koach hiyuli as the real ultimate koach, the ability to make man. It's more condensed. It's already identifiable as being related to intellect, but it still has not yet come into the brains. It's still the koach hamaskil, the general atmosphere, the ability to be able to think and to innovate. Shehu koach hiyuli. This is this general neutral energy. Al kol minei giluyei sichliot, for all kinds of revelations of mind. She'akol nimshach, it's all drawn me'akoach hamaskil, from the koach of maskil that innovates sechel, ki yadua, as it's known. Hare, what do we see? Yesh bo koach hagilu. So this is the ability to be revealed, to give off, to give over, to reveal from oneself, to sechel, all kinds of intellect. This all is drawn from the ability to think, ki yadu, as it's known. This is the ability to be able to reveal any kinds of intellectual thoughts. In this koach hamaskil, it also has the ability to restrain, as we're going to see soon. I guess we'll get to it tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. But the koach hamaskil not only has the ability to give off sechel and to share and to give and to reveal. The koach hamaskil also has the ability to restrain. Why would a person need to restrain? For example, if you're teaching children and you want to teach them Talmud, so of course to teach means to give and to reveal and to share. But if you're going to give the child the entire intellect as it is, as you learned it as an adult, the child is going to go in here. It's going to go out right there. You know what? It's probably not even going to go in the ear to begin with. It'll go right over their minds. So prior to giving over the message to the child of the Talmud, the teachings of the Talmud, you have to know what to say and also what not to say. Not to overwhelm them with knowledge. Where does this come from? Both the revelation and the restraint are both in the koach hamaskil. In this ability to think, this general ability of thinking and thinking power, thinking energy, koach hiyuli, the general thinking power, even before it comes into the brain, it already gives you the tone of almost two opposites. On one hand, giving, teaching, sharing, and on the other hand, restraint, to know what to teach and what not to teach. So in other words, in summary of this lesson, when we succeed to tap into the koach hiyuli, this general koach, then we realize that we have power to combine opposites, both revelation and restraint. And this is going to be the secret to the answer. This is going to be the point that we're going to expand upon, B'ezrat Hashem, that Havaya and Elokim is all one. If we're able to see how both of these abilities, both to reveal and to restrain, are both connected to one happy family, which is the koach hiyuli, this elevated general koach, in this case to think, but in any scenario you have the koach hiyuli of that scenario, like we talked before about plants and so on and so forth in the seed. Then if we're able to tap into that, then hopefully we'll be able to realize Ech ze Elokah, we'll be able to see how it is by Hashem, that really Havaya and Elokim, Kul Echad, is all one. Thank you so much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, we'll see you tonight for a special lecture online by our very own Chanoch Rubel, 7:30 tonight, Tuesday night. Bezrat Hashem, all the best. Thank you so much for joining us.